So thank you, my friend, Brent Moselle.
So
go ahead.
So we're not going to hell with Varney.
You are.
We're not going to hell with
I'm
Varney.
free. I'm, Mr. Fairbox. All right, thank you very, very much. We'll see what happens, but I hope you like the heat. All right, now, I want to focus on this poverty fight we've got going on here, and what do we do to address it? The Pope also was pounding on that, and the government essentially does have an obligation to help those in need. I'm paraphrasing here. But Gina Loudon is with us, Charlie Kirk, Jehmu, Greene. Charlie, what did you make of what he was saying? Is that different than what Jesus was teaching?
Well, I think there's a lot to be said that we do need to help the least among us, but I think it's very dangerous to connect his love of the poor and the altruism that is inherent in his dialogue with also his anti-capitalist statements in the past. Look, if we want to help the least among us, entrepreneurial free market capitalism is the only true way to do that. Let's look at his home country of Argentina, a country that has embraced collectivist policies, embraced dictatorships that have, stolen money from the rich. And
that's the only capitalism he knew.
That's right. Fair, but he's trying to make that an international
are a product of
policy.
Their upbringing.
You're right.
So, Gina, I'm looking at that, and I can understand where he's coming from. I don't agree with it. The anger at U.S. banks, the financial institutions that, in his eyes, brought Argentina to its knees. So I could see that anger, but I think he had a very different experience with capitalism. That's all I'm saying.
He did, Neil. There's no question about that. Heritage's numbers on economic freedom for Argentina, they rank 158th out of 179th. This is crony capitalism at its worst. He doesn't understand American capitalism, and he doesn't understand the fact that American capitalism has led to more compassion and kindness around this world than any other economic system ever. And we have to remember this too, Neil. As you pointed out in your last segment, it's kind of funny, don't you think, that the statists talk all the time about the separation of church and state until they have someone who they believe they can parade out as the example of why socialism and expanded welfare programs are good, and now all of a sudden, forget about that little separation of church and state. We're not so concerned about that anymore.
All right, but we do have a very high poverty rate, Jehmu, and so the Pope seems to be saying something's got to be done. And we can criticize whether it's government or capitalism has to do more, and I think that is the wind at his back. That's what makes him popular, because he touches the common man and woman. What I'm saying is he giving the green light, as some of your liberal colleagues are, not me, you, that the government should do more to rectify that?
Yes, because that's what the Bible says.
The Bible says government should establish bureaucracies to do this?
The Bible says, and what he is, let me actually get one word out. What he is saying is that he is preaching the social doctrine of the Bible, and I think it is so hypocritical for people on the right to claim that he has no place to be talking about these issues and to say that these are political issues when they pick and choose things from the Bible to support their positions all the time.
Would you feel that way if he immediately came out and this was all about abortion today at the White House?
I certainly would understand where he was coming from on it.
You'd be outraged.
As a Christian, I'm not sitting here saying that I'm going to pick and choose what his message should be. No, I'm saying thank goodness it's finally happening, that attention to the poor is actually being talked about.
Charlie, what do you make? She does make a good point that this is at least bringing this growing global chasm between the rich and the poor, and the disenfranchised in the middle of this global refugee crisis to light.
Sure, and so to your point, talking about how the Bible says that we must somehow grow government to be more compassionate for the poor.
That's not what I said.
No, that's not what she said.
You did allude to that in your first statement.
That's absolutely not what I said. I'm not going to be...
She said Barack Obama should be sainted.
Yeah, that's exactly what she said.
Right?
No, but to go to the broader point, if you want to look at where central command statist policies are implemented, the poor stay poor for long periods of time. The Pope, unfortunately, does not go as far as he should, and he says, really, if we want to make poor people's lives better, we should give them freedom and not grow government and just continue to, get more control into a centralized type command economy.
Gina?
And building on that, Neil, the Bible says, feed my sheep. It doesn't say go create a social welfare program that, by the way, in the United States has created an obesity epidemic among our so-called poor that is killing them. That's not humane, and I seriously doubt if the Pope understood that, if he'd be advocating for more social welfare in the United States.
An obesity epidemic that is driven by the sugars and the types of ingredients in the very cheap products that the poor have access to,
Funny
on the
thing,
food stamps that
funny
they're
thing,
using.
Jehmu,
Come
poor
on, it
people
is
in the rest of the world
it is not
don't
that
have an
black and
obesity
white.
problem.
I think what is really unique about what is happening with his visit is he's going to the Capitol. Right now, we have Capitol workers who are protesting, who have reached out to him, who have sent him a letter. They are homeless. They are working multiple jobs. They are asking him to be the messenger to the members of Congress who they feed and who they clean their offices and who have turned their back on him.
You will acknowledge we are the most generous country on earth. You will acknowledge that.
Well, how generous is a member of Congress who takes a plate of food from someone serving him and understands that that person can't even feed her child and turns his back on her? I don't see that as being
So all these
generous.
safety net programs that are installed under for decades now by both Congresses of all types, it's not enough. We've got to do more and more, spend more.
Minimum wage that has not
the trillion
kept up
spent
with
on
the
a war on
economy.
poverty when we still have the same percentage of those impoverished. It would lead not even the Pope to say, we've got to find another answer, right?
There are other answers. There's fixing our education system. There's fixing our criminal justice system.
Charlie,
absolutely. But it's not. There's not one answer.
I will say this in the final point to tie it all together. If you want to look at the common denominator of what makes poor people's lives better, it is giving them economic freedom. It is not just giving more government programs and spending trillions of dollars, which, by the way, we do not have.
As someone who is poor, I disagree.
Cut the tax burden. See how much more the church can do.
All right. Well, I definitely avoided the obesity topic, so I want to thank you all for that and your input on that. We're told the Pope is running now, I guess, significantly behind schedule, right, guys? All that affects is just visiting more people, shrines at a big mass that's planned. The largest such mass planned, not the one going on at the Cathedral of St. Matthew in Washington, but the big one at the largest Catholic church in the United States. Tens of thousands there. In fact, they're already